Turning 70 doesn't mean you're reaching the end of the road. No, it means something far more beautiful. It means you finally arrived at a place in life where you can slow down, sip your tea, feel the morning breeze, and quietly ask yourself, what truly matters to me now? When we were younger, we spent so much time trying to meet expectations. Be beautiful, be kind, be quiet, be perfect. We twisted ourselves into shapes that weren't ours just to fit into a world that told us who we should be. But after 70, that world doesn't get to decide anymore. Now life belongs to you. No more chasing, no more proving, no more performing. This is the chapter where you get to live softly, truthfully, and in peace. And maybe, just maybe, all that's standing in the way are the things you're still carrying, things that don't serve you anymore. In this video, I want to gently invite you to look at 14 things, habits, beliefs, expectations that might be quietly weighing you down after 70. Things that once mattered, but don't anymore. Things you might be holding on to out of habit, out of guilt, or simply because no one ever told you it was okay to let go. But today, I'll tell you, it is okay. More than that, it is necessary. Because letting go of what no longer matters is how we make space for what truly does. So stay with me for the next few minutes, not because you need to change, but because you deserve to feel lighter, to feel free, to feel alive in the years ahead. Are you ready? Let's begin with the first thing that no longer makes sense after 70. 1. Chasing unrealistic beauty standards. Have you ever stood in front of the mirror and felt a quiet ache? Not because of what you saw, but because of what the world had taught you to fear. Maybe it started with one silver strand, then another. The gentle lines near your mouth that deepened with every story, every laugh, every sorrow you've carried. Maybe your arms don't rest quite the same in short sleeves. Maybe your eyes don't sparkle with youth, but instead with wisdom, with memory, with miles walked in shoes no one else could fill. Somewhere along the way, we were told that beauty was something we had to chase, that we had to fight time like it was some sort of enemy, that we had to cover it up, stretch it out, dye it down, tuck it away, inject it, mask it, until there was no trace of the years we've lived. And the hardest part, most of us believed it, because no one ever said we didn't have to. No one ever said your age is not a flaw, it's a masterpiece. And behind every wrinkle, every silver strand is a story. Let me tell you one. Margaret is 74. For most of her 60s, she did everything right. Every 6 weeks, she sat under bright salon lights, watching her silver roots disappear into deep chestnut. Her bathroom shelf, it was a small army of serums, creams, lifting lotions, and concealers, each promising to erase the very life she had worked so hard to live. Her makeup was precise. Her clothes were flattering. On the outside, she looked polished, put together, perfect. But inside, she felt exhausted, like she was performing a version of herself that no longer fit. One day, after an expensive facial left her skin red and burning, Margaret stood in the mirror and paused. She didn't look old, but she didn't look free either, and that realization stung more than any wrinkle ever could. That night, she made a quiet but radical decision. No more dye, no more chasing, no more hiding. The months that followed were tender. Her silver came in slowly. At first, she hesitated before leaving the house, but something beautiful started to happen. People didn't say, "You look old." They said, "You look radiant." Her smile softened. Her laugh got louder. She wore clothes that felt like her, not what some magazine said she should wear. And one morning, while buying peaches at the farmer's market, a little girl tugged on her mom's sleeve, pointed to Margaret, and whispered, "Mommy, look. She looks like a fairy." That was the moment Margaret realized she hadn't lost beauty. She had finally found it. Because no one tells you this, but real beauty after 70 isn't about looking younger. It's about looking alive. It's in the way your shoulders relax when you finally stop apologizing for taking up space. It's in your posture when you walk proudly, silver strands shimmering like threads spun from the moon. It's in your voice when you speak your truth without needing to be liked. It's in your eyes when you smile at someone, not because you're being polite, but because you mean it. So maybe it's time we stop asking, "How can I look younger?" and start asking, "How can I come home to myself?" Because your silver hair is not a flaw, it's a crown. Your wrinkles aren't damage, they're history. Your softness isn't weakness, it's wisdom. And your presence, exactly as you are, is more than enough. So let me ask you gently, what part of yourself have you been hiding just to fit someone else's idea of beauty? And what might happen if you stopped hiding it? 2. Letting go of clutter. Have you ever looked around your home and thought, How did I end up with so much stuff? Maybe it's the closet overflowing with clothes you haven't worn in years, the drawers packed with things you forgot you even had, the shelves lined with trinkets that once meant something, but now mostly gather dust. And still, we keep them. Not because we use them, not even because we love them, but because we're afraid. Afraid that letting go means forgetting. Afraid that we might need it someday. Afraid that tossing out a thing is like tossing out a part of ourselves. And that's the quiet truth, isn't it? Every object holds a little story. That dress you haven't worn since your 50s, you wore it the day he held your hand and said you looked beautiful. That chipped teacup, it belonged to your mother. That stack of papers in the drawer, just in case, you tell yourself. But here's the thing no one tells us. Keeping everything from our past doesn't keep the past alive. It keeps us from fully living in the present. Susan is 73. For years, she kept everything. Her attic was full of boxes she hadn't opened in decades. Her closet, bursting. Her guest room, more like a storage unit. One morning, she opened her closet to get dressed and realized she couldn't see the clothes she actually liked. She felt overwhelmed before the day even started. And so, on a quiet Sunday afternoon, she decided to try something different. She lit a candle, put on her favorite old jazz record, and began, slowly, gently, to let go. Not everything, just the things she no longer loved. The clothes that didn't feel like her anymore. The decorations that no longer brought joy. The things she kept out of habit, not happiness. She didn't do it all in one day. It took her weeks. But every drawer she cleared, every item she gave away, made her home feel lighter. And so did she. Susan didn't lose anything. She gained something far greater. Clarity, space, peace. Now when she opens her closet, she sees only the 10 pieces she truly loves. Getting dressed is simple. Her mornings are calm. Her house finally breathes again. And her soul? It does too. Because here's the beautiful part. Letting go of stuff is how we make room for joy. Joy doesn't live in packed boxes or cluttered corners. It lives in space, in freedom, in the feeling of walking into a room and not feeling weighed down. So if your home feels heavy, maybe it's not you. Maybe it's just time to release the things that are no longer part of your story. Start small. One drawer, one shelf, one bag. Ask yourself, do I love this? Do I use this? Does this help me live the life I want now? And if the answer is no, let it go. With gratitude. With grace. Because you're not throwing away memories. You're clearing space for what matters most today. Letting go of stuff is not losing. It's choosing. Choosing peace over pressure. Lightness over burden. Presence over nostalgia. So let me ask you, gently, what's one small thing you could let go of this week? Just one. To make a little more room for joy in your life. I'd love to hear what it is. You're not alone in this. I'm cheering you on, one drawer at a time. 3. Avoiding pointless arguments. Have you ever walked away from a conversation and thought, why did I even get into that in the first place? Maybe it was a family gathering where someone brought up politics. Maybe it was your adult children arguing about something you couldn't fix, even if you tried. Or maybe it was just a moment where someone said something that didn't sit right, and you had to respond. It happens to all of us, especially when we care. We want to be heard. We want to help. We want peace. But too often, we end up sacrificing our own peace in the process. Here's something I've learned the hard way. Not every disagreement is worth your energy. Not every hill is worth dying on. Not every opinion needs your counterpoint. Not every silence is a surrender. Sometimes it's wisdom. Let me tell you about Eleanor. She's 76, a proud mom of 3, and the unofficial peacekeeper of her family. Every Thanksgiving, every holiday, every birthday, she found herself right in the middle of her children's disagreements. Who's not talking to who? Who forgot whose birthday? Who's parenting wrong? And for years, Eleanor believed it was her job to fix it, to mediate, to explain, to smooth things over. But one afternoon, after yet another phone call left her heart pounding and her head aching, she sat down and asked herself, why am I carrying all of this? She realized something powerful. She didn't need to be the referee anymore. She wasn't responsible for everyone else's peace. She was allowed to choose her own. So she began stepping back, lovingly, gently, not with silence, but with boundaries, not with anger, but with clarity. She still loves her children. She still listens, But she no longer jumps into every disagreement like it's her responsibility to fix the world. And you know what happened? Her stress melted. Her home felt lighter. And slowly, her children began solving their own problems. Eleanor didn't lose her voice. She found her peace. Because here's the truth. You don't have to attend every argument you're invited to. You don't need to explain yourself to everyone. You don't need to be right all the time. And you don't need to carry other people's battles on your back. You get to choose where your energy goes. You get to ask yourself, is this worth my peace? And if the answer is no, you get to let it go. Not out of weakness, but out of strength. Because protecting your peace is a form of love for yourself and for those around you. So maybe next time someone tries to pull you into a heated conversation, you can pause and ask, does this really need me? Will this matter a year from now? Is this the kind of energy I want to carry into my day? And if it's not, let it pass. Smile, breathe, and choose stillness over noise. Because the older we get, the more we realize peace isn't something we wait for. It's something we protect. So let me ask you gently, what's one argument, one opinion, or one conversation you've been carrying lately that you might be ready to set down? You can tell me in the comments. I'd love to hear what peace looks like for you. And if this message made you feel a little lighter today, don't forget to like the video and share it with someone who might need this reminder too. We're all learning to let go together. 4. Always saying yes to please others. Have you ever said yes when every part of you wanted to say no? Maybe it was a family gathering you didn't have the energy for. Maybe it was helping someone when your own cup was already empty. Maybe it was staying just a little longer, smiling a little harder, when what you truly needed was rest. For so many of us, especially as women, we were taught from the start that yes meant love. That saying yes made us kind, made us valuable, made us good. And so we said it over and over, to invitations we didn't want, to favors that left us drained, to expectations that we never agreed to, but somehow still carried, because we didn't want to disappoint, because we didn't want to seem selfish, because deep down we were afraid that if we stopped saying yes, people might stop asking. But what if I told you that saying no doesn't make you unkind? What if saying no could actually be one of the most loving things you do? Let me tell you about Eleanor. She's 71, a warm soul with a soft voice and a heart that says yes almost by instinct. For years, she was the first to arrive and the last to leave. Every event, every gathering, every request. But underneath the cheerful smiles, she was exhausted. There were days she'd come home from a lunch date and just sit in silence, drained, overstimulated, and resentful. Not because she didn't love the people in her life, but because she had forgotten how to love herself too. Then one morning, after canceling a walk she had planned for herself to bake cupcakes for a club she no longer enjoyed, she paused. She realized she was saying yes to everything and everyone, except herself. So she tried something new. The next time an invitation came, she took a breath. And instead of rushing to respond, she asked, do I truly want this? Will this bring me joy? And if the answer wasn't a clear yes, she said no, kindly, gently, without excuses. At first, she was nervous. Would people be upset? Would they stop inviting her? But something surprising happened. No one was angry, and Eleanor felt free. She began to choose rest over obligation, presence over performance, truth over approval. And in doing so, she discovered something no one ever taught her. Saying no to others can be saying yes to yourself, yes to your time, yes to your health, yes to what truly matters now. Because every yes comes with a cost. And when we give it too freely, we begin to lose the one thing we can't buy back, our energy. So maybe it's time to ask yourself, is this a true yes or just a polite one? Am I showing up out of love or out of guilt? And if the answer makes your shoulders drop, your heart feel tight, or your gut say, not again, it's okay to say no. You don't need a reason. Your peace is reason enough. So let me ask you, my friend, what's one thing this week you can say no to so you can say yes to you? It could be a gathering, a favor, an old habit of pleasing before pausing. Whatever it is, share it in the comments if you feel called to. You might inspire someone else to finally choose themselves too. And if this message gave you even a moment of relief, I hope you'll like the video or send it to someone who needs a gentle no as well. Because your yes is a gift, and you get to choose 5. The pressure to be perfect. Have you ever worked so hard to make something just right, only to feel too tired to actually enjoy it? The table was set just so. The napkins folded, the candles lit, the roast cooked for hours. Everything was beautiful, but when you finally sat down, you realized you hadn't taken a breath in hours. For so many of us, especially women, we were raised with this quiet message: if it's not perfect, it's not enough. Not the house, not the meal, not the decorations, not us. We spent decades trying to be the glue, the hostess, the one who held everything and everyone together, and we did it well. But often, we paid for it with our peace. Helen knows that feeling well. She's 72, the matriarch of a big, joyful, sometimes chaotic family. Every Christmas, she went all out. Turkey, ham, 5 kinds of pie, place settings with name cards. It was beautiful. It was impressive. But every year she ended up so tired that she barely remembered the laughter, the conversations, the hugs. She remembered the dishes, the stress, the cleaning. Then one Christmas, her oven broke. Just hours before dinner, panic set in. She almost cried, almost canceled, but her daughter said, "Mom, let's just order pizza and play cards." So they did. And something amazing happened. They laughed. They sat on the floor. They ate pepperoni slices on paper plates and drank wine from coffee mugs. And later that night, Helen looked around and realized this was the best Christmas she'd had in years. No stress, no pressure, just presence. Because the truth is, perfect doesn't create joy. Connection does. And sometimes, when we're busy chasing perfection, we miss the little moments that make life magical. So here's a gentle reminder. No one remembers how smooth the gravy was. They remember the warmth in your voice. No one cares if the napkins match. They remember how welcome they felt in your home. The crack in the pie crust, the mismatched plates, the burnt edges on the cookies, those might just be the best part because they're real. And real is where the joy lives. So the next time you feel that pressure rising, that inner voice whispering, it has to be perfect, pause, take a breath, and ask yourself, what would happen if I let it be enough? Because your worth is not measured in spotless counters or flawless meals. It's in your laughter, your kindness, your presence at the table, not just your effort behind it. So let me ask you, with love, what's one thing you can let go of trying to make perfect this week? Maybe it's the dinner. Maybe it's the to-do list. Maybe it's the idea that you have to hold it all together to be valued. If that question speaks to you, I'd love to hear in the comments. What would it feel like to just show up instead of showing off? And if this message helped you breathe a little deeper today, send it to someone who also deserves a break from being perfect. Because the people who love you, they don't want the perfect version of you. They just want you. 6, neglecting health. Because I'm already old. Have you ever said to yourself, what's the point? I'm already old. Maybe it was when you skipped your walk because your knees hurt. Maybe it was reaching for frozen dinners because cooking felt like too much work. Maybe it was passing by a mirror and thinking, this is just what aging looks like. Might as well get used to it. We've all had those moments when we feel like our best physical days are behind us, when we tell ourselves that trying to feel better is for the younger version of who we used to be. But what if I told you that's not true? What if there's still so much more available to you? Energy, strength, vitality, not to look younger, but to feel alive in the body you have right now. Let me tell you about Margaret. She's 75. Her joints were stiff. Her back ached. Some days, even getting out of bed felt like a chore. She used to be active years ago, but lately she found herself sitting more, doing less, and telling herself, this is just how it goes at my age. But one morning, after struggling to reach a box on the top shelf and feeling frustrated with her body, she had a moment, not a loud one, just a quiet whisper. I want to feel stronger again. So she signed up for a beginner's yoga class at the local senior center. She almost didn't go. She was afraid she'd look silly, that her body wouldn't cooperate, but she went. In that first class, it was hard. Her balance was shaky. Her breath felt shallow, but she kept going. One class, then another, and slowly something shifted. Her knees began to ache less. She stood a little taller. She started sleeping better, laughing more. And one morning, while walking through the park, she realized she felt better than she had in years. Not because she turned back time, but because she chose to care for her body today. Because here's the truth, no one talks about enough. It's never too late to feel better in your body. You don't need to run marathons. You don't need fancy equipment or intense routines. You just need to begin with a stretch, a walk, a glass of water, a nourishing meal, a good night's sleep, with a small, gentle choice that says, my body still matters, and I still deserve to feel good in it. Aging doesn't mean giving up on yourself. It means giving more love to the only home you've ever truly had, your body. So let me ask you, what's one small thing you could do today to care for your body with kindness? Maybe it's a short walk around the block. Maybe it's dancing in the kitchen while your tea steeps. Maybe it's scheduling that checkup you've been putting off. Whatever it is, do it not because you should, but because you can, and because you're worth it. If this message stirred something in you, leave a comment and tell me, what does taking care of yourself look like today? And if you know someone who's been putting themselves last, share this video with them. Because sometimes we all need a reminder that it's never too late to start again. This body of yours, it's carried you through so much. It's not perfect, but it's still yours. And it's never too late to say, thank you, I choose you. Let's keep going. 7. Holding on to toxic relationships. Some friendships last decades, but not all of them deserve to last forever. Have you ever kept someone in your life simply because they've always been there? Not because they bring you joy now, or support or laughter, but because the history felt too long to walk away from? It happens more than we talk about. That old friend who always finds something to criticize, the sibling who only calls when they need something, the person who drains your energy not because they're evil, but because they've never learned how to love without hurting. And because we're loyal, because we're kind, because we've always been the ones to make peace, we keep answering the calls. We keep making room at the table. We keep telling ourselves this is just how they are. But here's a quiet truth that took me years to learn. History doesn't excuse hurt. And just because someone's been in your life a long time doesn't mean they get to stay in the center of your peace. Evelyn knows this truth well. She's 78, gentle and gracious. For over 30 years, she had a close friend named Carol. They met at church, shared holidays, raised their kids around each other, but Carol had a sharp tongue. She criticized Evelyn's clothes, her cooking, her decisions, her silence. And every time they met, Evelyn would leave feeling smaller, less sure of herself. But she always said, we've been friends for so long, I can't just walk away now. Until one day, after a lunch that left her in tears for the 3rd time in a row, Evelyn asked herself, if I just met her today, would I invite this person into my life? And the answer was a gentle, honest no. So she began to step back. No grand confrontation, no drama, just fewer phone calls, fewer plans, more space. She replaced the hours of emotional exhaustion with walks in the park, calls to her grandchildren, and quiet afternoons with music she loved. And one morning, while sitting by the window with her tea, she realized her heart felt lighter. Evelyn didn't lose a friend. She reclaimed herself. Because sometimes the most powerful act of self-care is choosing peace over history, freedom over obligation, joy over guilt. So if there's someone in your life who always leaves you feeling anxious, unseen, or not enough, it's okay to ask, does this relationship still serve who I am today? And if the answer is no, you don't owe them your energy. You don't owe them your time. You don't even owe them an explanation, because if it costs your peace, it's too expensive. So let me ask you, gently, is there a person in your life that you're holding on to, not because they make you feel good, but because you feel guilty letting go? You're not alone, and you're not unkind for choosing your peace. If this speaks to you, share in the comments. You don't have to name names, just say, I'm ready to choose peace. And if you know someone who's been wrestling with this too, send them this video as a little whisper of encouragement. Because sometimes, permission is all we need to let go. 8. Thinking it's too late to learn something new. Have you ever said to yourself, I'm too old to start that now? Maybe it was when you saw someone painting at the park, or playing guitar on a sunny porch, or speaking Spanish to a grandchild, fluently, joyfully. And something in you whispered, that used to be a dream of mine, but those days are gone. We tell ourselves these stories, don't we? That learning belongs to the young, that our minds are too slow, our hands too stiff, our memory too fuzzy. But here's what no one tells you. Your brain didn't stop growing. You just stopped giving it new places to go. Let me tell you about Nancy. She's 76, quiet, a little shy. She's always loved music, especially the piano. As a child, she'd press the keys in her neighbor's living room and pretend to play. But life got busy, then hard. Then she told herself, it's too late now. That moment passed. Until one January morning, she passed by a used upright piano at a thrift store. She touched the keys and felt something stir. A tiny voice inside said, why not now? So she brought it home. She started with YouTube videos, 5 minutes a day, just scales at first, then a melody, then a simple song. She didn't play perfectly. Her fingers stumbled. She laughed at herself, but every morning she sat down, just her, the piano, and the sunrise through the window. And now, each morning begins with music, not to impress anyone, but because it brings her joy, because it reminds her she's still growing. Nancy didn't become a concert pianist. She became something far more powerful, a beginner again, because when we allow ourselves to be beginners, we become open again, curious, brave, and that spark, that feeling of wonder, it doesn't belong to any age. You're not too old to learn. You're just ready to begin. So maybe now's the time to pick up that paintbrush, to open that language app, to ask your grandchild to show you how to use that phone feature you've avoided for years, to join the dance class or the book club or the local choir, to play, to stretch, to get it wrong and laugh and try again. Because this chapter of life is not a closing, it's a second spring. So let me ask you gently, what's one thing you've always wanted to try, but told yourself you missed the chance? You don't have to be great at it. You just have to be willing. Leave a comment and share it with us, because on this channel, Golden Wise Elders, we celebrate beginnings, not just achievements. We grow together. We learn together. We start again at any age. And if this message reminded you that it's never too late, hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't yet, and share it with someone who's ready to say, I'm just getting started. You're not behind. You're right on time. And we're so glad you're here. 9. Avoiding technology because it seems too complicated. You know, in the last chapter, we talked about learning something new and how powerful it is to be a beginner again. But for many of us, there's one thing we've been quietly avoiding, not because we're not smart enough, but because it just feels overwhelming. Technology, phones with too many buttons, tablets that buzz and beep, passwords you can't remember, apps that seem to change every week, and the sneaky fear that one wrong tap might break the whole thing. You're not alone. So many of us have felt this way. We say, it's just not for me. That's for the kids. I've lived just fine without it this long. And yes, that's true. But what if technology wasn't about keeping up, but about staying close? Let me tell you about Dorothy. She's 79, widowed. Her grandchildren live 2 states away. She missed them more than she could say out loud. Her daughter gave her a smartphone. At first, Dorothy wanted to return it. Too many buttons, too many pop-ups, too much pressure. But one afternoon, her grandson set it up, sat beside her, and said, Grandma, let's just try one thing, FaceTime. And so they did. The screen lit up, and suddenly, there he was, her grandson, grinning, real time, right there. He showed her his missing tooth, his messy room, his cat climbing the curtains. Dorothy cried, not because she was confused, but because in that moment, technology didn't feel cold. It felt like connection. Now every Sunday at 4 p.m., Dorothy makes her tea and sits by the window. The phone rings, and there they are, laughing, talking, sharing life. She didn't become a tech expert, but she learned the one thing that mattered most, how to stay close to the people she loves. Because here's the truth. Technology doesn't replace hugs, but it keeps hearts close. It's not about being tech savvy. It's about staying connected to your family, to your interests, to the world. Want to learn how to video call your sister in Florida? Watch your favorite old shows on YouTube? Join a Facebook group for grandmothers who garden? You can. You don't need to master everything. You just need to take the first step. So let me ask you, gently, what's one small thing you've been curious to try, but felt too afraid to ask about? Maybe it's sending a photo. Maybe it's joining Zoom. Maybe it's learning how to listen to audiobooks while walking. Share it in the comments. We're learning together here. This is a place where no question is silly and every new click is a tiny celebration. If this message made you feel a little more curious, a little more brave, hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't, and send this video to someone you love, especially if they say, I'm not good with tech. Because here at Golden Wise Elders, we're not trying to keep up with the world. We're learning how to stay close to what matters most. And that's a lesson worth logging in for. 10. Caring too much about what others think. Have you ever stopped yourself from doing something? Not because you didn't want to, but because you were worried about what someone else might think. Maybe it was a dress that felt a little too bright, a joke that felt a little too loud, an opinion you wanted to share, but swallowed back instead. It's something we learn early. Be proper. Be polite. Don't call attention to yourself. Tone it down. And for decades, many of us did. We adjusted, smiled, shrunk ourselves just enough to fit into other people's comfort zones because deep down, we were taught that being liked mattered more than being real. But here's the quiet cost of that. We lose pieces of ourselves, slowly, quietly, until one day we look in the mirror and wonder, where did I go? Margaret knows that feeling. She's 74, soft-spoken, thoughtful, but deep inside, she's always loved color. Bright reds, wild patterns, big, joyful earrings. Still, for most of her life, she wore beige, gray, soft blues, clothes that whispered instead of sang. Then one day, something inside her shifted. She was out shopping and saw it. A red dress, bold, flowing, alive. She hesitated, then tried it on. And for the first time in a long time, she looked in the mirror and saw not just a woman, but herself. That afternoon, she wore the dress to her local cafe. She felt nervous, exposed, unsure, until a stranger, an older woman, walked past, smiled and said, "You look radiant." That single sentence stayed with her for days, because the truth is, most people aren't judging you. They're too busy worrying about being judged themselves. And even if they are, so what? At this stage in life, you don't need approval. You've earned your freedom. You've earned your voice. You've earned the right to show up exactly as you are. Loud, colorful, soft, bold, whatever feels like you. Because life is far too short to wear beige forever. And your laughter, it's not too loud. It's the music of a life fully lived. So maybe it's time to stop asking, what will they think? And start asking, what do I want to feel today? To dress for joy, to speak for truth, to laugh because it feels good, not because it's appropriate. Let me ask you, gently, what's one small way you could show up more fully as yourself this week? Maybe it's wearing that color you've been saving for a special occasion. Maybe it's dancing in your kitchen windows open. Maybe it's speaking up in that conversation where you always stay quiet. Whatever it is, I hope you do it. And if you do, come back here. Leave a comment and tell us. Here at Golden Wise Elders, we celebrate women who shine in their own light, no matter their age, no matter the noise around them. So if this message made something inside you sit up a little taller, like the video, subscribe, or better yet, send it to a friend who could use a little red dress moment of her own. Because my friend, you don't need permission to shine. You are the light. Live bold. You've earned every right to. 11. Not having a financial plan, there's a quiet belief many of us carry as we get older. I've made it this far. I'll figure the rest out as I go. And on the surface, it makes sense. We've paid our dues, raised families, paid mortgages, weathered storms, and now in our later years, we tell ourselves, I just want to enjoy what I have left. But here's the gentle truth. Enjoying life and having a plan don't have to be opposites. In fact, the right plan is what makes peace possible. Because financial stress at this age, it doesn't show up as wild spending or big mistakes. It shows up in small, silent ways. In the worry before opening a bill. In the hesitation before saying yes to lunch. In the guilt of not being able to help someone you love. In the fear of needing help and not being able to ask. Let me tell you about Linda. She's 75 now. For most of her retirement, she lived by one rule. I'll just enjoy what I have today. She traveled, helped her kids, gave generously, always saying, money's meant to be spent. And it is. But 10 years in, her savings ran out. Unexpected medical bills came. Repairs piled up. Prices climbed. And suddenly, she wasn't enjoying life. She was worrying through it. At first, she felt ashamed. She didn't want to ask for help. Didn't want to admit she hadn't planned. But then she did something brave. She got honest. She sat down, looked at every dollar coming in and going out. She created a simple plan. No fancy investments, no lectures, just clarity. She set a small monthly budget, created a peace fund for surprise expenses, and learned to say yes to things that brought her joy and no to what didn't. Now she doesn't have more money, but she has something far better, peace. Because knowing what you have, what you need, and what you can give, that's not limiting, that's freeing. As Linda says, a simple plan gives you powerful peace. And you deserve that peace, not in the next chapter, right now. So let me ask you gently, do you have a plan that helps you sleep at night? Not a perfect one, not a rich one, just one that honors who you are, what you have, and where you want to go. Maybe it's time to look at your numbers, to call that trusted advisor, to talk to your family about your needs and wishes. It's never too late to choose clarity over fear. And your future, you still own that. You still get to decide. So if this message spoke to you, leave a comment. You can just say, I'm ready to make peace with my money. We'll cheer you on. You're not alone. And if someone in your life needs this reminder, share the video with them. Sometimes the most loving thing we can do is start the hard conversation. Here at Golden Wise Elders, we believe freedom doesn't come from having more. It comes from knowing what truly matters and planning around that. You've earned the right to live these years with dignity, with intention, and yes, with peace. 12. Fearing aging. Have you ever avoided looking in the mirror, not because you were in a hurry, but because you didn't want to face the person staring back? Maybe you stopped celebrating birthdays. Maybe you stopped taking photos. Maybe, deep down, you felt that each passing year was something to hide instead of something to hold. You're not alone. We live in a world that worships youth, where wrinkles are erased, gray hairs are dyed, and aging is treated like something to fight instead of something to honor. So we shrink ourselves. We fade into quiet. We smile less in photos. We whisper instead of laugh, not because we don't love life, but because somewhere along the way, we were made to believe that getting older meant becoming invisible. Let me tell you a story. Margaret is 80, strong, witty, tender-hearted. But for years, she avoided every camera. She skipped birthday parties, and when her granddaughter once asked, "Grandma, why don't you like yourself?" it broke something open inside her, because that's what it looked like from the outside, that she didn't like herself. When really, she was mourning the version of her that the world used to celebrate, and didn't know how to celebrate the woman she had become. So Margaret made a quiet decision. She started small. She smiled in one photo, then another. She bought a bright scarf, wrote a poem. She started attending a local book club, and every year since, she's baked her own birthday cake. Chocolate, with candles and all. She didn't do it for anyone else. She did it because she finally understood something powerful. Aging isn't something to fear. It's something to thank. It's proof that you've lived, that you're still here, and that there's still more life ahead. Your laugh lines, they hold decades of joy. Your silver hair, a crown woven from every chapter you've walked through. Your hands, they've held, healed, worked, loved, built, and blessed. You are not past your prime. You are the prime. You're the firelight in the room. The story everyone leans in to hear. You're not fading. You're deepening. So let me ask you gently, what would it look like to stop fearing your age and start loving the life it reflects? Maybe it's saying yes to that birthday party. Maybe it's taking a photo on purpose. Maybe it's standing in front of the mirror tomorrow morning and saying, "Hello again, I missed you." If that speaks to your heart, I'd love to hear in the comments, not your age, but your aliveness. Tell us one thing you're still excited to do this year. Let's remind each other, this chapter is not the end. It's just the start of a deeper, freer way of living. And if this message touched something in you, click like. Share it with someone who's been feeling unseen lately. Subscribe to Golden Wise Elders, because here, every year is something we celebrate, not conceal. You're not too old, you're still here. And we're so glad you are 13, trying to control children and grandchildren too much. If you're a mother or a grandmother, you know how deep love can run. And because we love, we worry. We want to protect, to guide, to keep our children and their children safe, happy, and heading in the right direction. So we give advice, we offer help, we share stories of when I was your age. And when they don't listen, we speak louder, call more often, press a little harder. But here's the tender truth. Sometimes the more we try to hold on, the further they feel from us. Carol knows that feeling all too well. She's 77, a proud grandmother of 4. She adores her family, truly. But over the years, she found herself constantly commenting on how her daughter was raising the kids. Too much screen time, not enough vegetables, too many activities, not enough church. Little corrections, sprinkled into every visit. At first, her daughter smiled and nodded, but over time, the visits became shorter, the calls less frequent. And one day, her 9-year-old grandson wouldn't come sit next to her on the couch. When she asked why, he shrugged and said, "You always tell us what to do." It stung, not because he was rude, but because he was right. Carol didn't mean to push, she meant to love, but her love came out as control, and it built a wall she never intended. So she did something brave. She chose to step back. She stopped giving unsolicited advice. She asked more questions instead of offering more opinions. She started just being there without trying to fix everything. And slowly, the wall softened. The calls came more often. The couch wasn't so empty. Her granddaughter even whispered one night before bed, "Grandma, I love when you just sit and listen." Carol learned something powerful. Love doesn't always mean leading. Sometimes it means letting go, letting them grow, and letting yourself breathe. You're still the roots, but they need space to be the branches. They need to make their own mistakes, and they need to know that your love isn't conditional on doing things your way. So let me ask you, gently, is there a place in your family where stepping back could actually bring you closer? Not out of silence, but out of trust. Not because you're less important, but because your presence is powerful enough on its own. If that question touched something in you, share in the comments. You don't need to share names, just say, "I'm learning to love with space." And if this message felt like a breath of fresh air, send it to a fellow grandma or grandpa who's trying to find that balance too. Here at Golden Wise Elders, we're not here to control the next generation. We're here to bless it with our calm, to be soft spaces, to be silent strength, to be love, even when it looks like letting go. Because sometimes, less advice means more connection, and fewer words mean deeper hugs. Let them grow. Let yourself breathe. You've earned that peace. 14. Thinking joy is only for the young. Have you ever caught yourself thinking, "I'm too old for that"? Too old to laugh until you cry. Too old to dance. Too old to feel light. Maybe it comes quietly, like when you walk past a group of young people laughing loudly in a cafe, or when you hear music that makes your toes want to tap, but you don't, or when someone invites you out and you smile politely, thinking that's not for me anymore. Because somewhere along the way, we were told that joy had an expiration date, that it belonged to the young, that once the wrinkles came, once the joints ached, once the energy slowed, joy would pack its bags and move on. But what if that's not true? What if joy isn't about youth at all, but about saying yes, no matter your age? Let me tell you about Gloria. She's 78, fiercely independent, thoughtful, graceful in that quiet, ageless way. But a few years ago, she found herself saying no to almost everything. No to dinners, no to music, no to the little things she used to love. Because in her words, that's for people who are still young and full of life. I've had my time. Until one Friday evening, her neighbor invited her to a beginner's dance class at the local community center. Gloria laughed. Her knees hurt. Her rhythm wasn't what it used to be, but something in her heart whispered, "Why not?" So she went. She didn't move like she used to. She didn't care. Because that night, surrounded by music and movement and laughter, something opened inside her, something she thought was gone forever. Joy. Every Friday since she goes, not to perform, not to impress, but to feel alive, to laugh when she forgets the steps, to move not with perfection, but with presence. And every time she spins, even just a little, she says to herself, "This is what it feels like to be young again, not in body, but in spirit." Because here's what Gloria learned. Joy doesn't retire. It waits for you to say yes. It doesn't care how old you are. It only asks, "Are you still willing to play?" So maybe it's time to stop sitting out the dance, to stop believing that delight has an age limit, to give yourself permission to laugh, to move, to say yes to life. Let me ask you gently, when was the last time you did something just for fun? Not to be productive, not to be needed, just for you. If it's been too long, that's okay. Today can be the start of something sweet. Leave a comment and share. What's one thing that brings you joy? Big or small? Let's build a list together. A reminder that joy belongs to all of us at every age. So here we are, dear friend. We've walked through 14 things that simply don't make sense anymore after 70. From chasing beauty, to holding on to clutter, from fearing technology, to forgetting that joy still belongs to you. And maybe, just maybe, along the way, you recognized a few things in your own story. Maybe you've been carrying too much on your shelves, in your heart, or in your mind. Maybe you've been saying yes too often, staying quiet too long, or forgetting how brightly you still shine. But here's the beautiful truth. After 70, life isn't about proving anything. It's about becoming everything you were too busy to be before. There is no more race to run. No more boxes to check. Now is the time to live softer, deeper, freer, to release, to reclaim, to rejoice. So let me ask you, which of these 14 are you ready to let go of today? Which one made you pause, smile, tear up, or whisper, "That's me"? I'd love to hear your story. Truly, leave a comment below because your words might be the encouragement someone else needs right now. And if this video felt like a warm cup of tea for your soul, tap that like button. Subscribe to our channel, Golden Wise Elders, where growing older means growing wiser, freer, and more joyfully you. And don't forget to hit the little bell icon so you never miss a new story, a new smile, or a new reminder that you are not alone on this path. And if someone you love is still learning how to let go, please share this video with them. It might be the nudge they've been waiting for. Until next time, thank you for spending this time with me. Your presence here is a gift. Keep living true, keep living light, and never forget, you're not too old, you're just getting started.